just an epic failure this week and today on this channel. Guys, it's the Wyndham Championship. It's the final event of the regular season. And we're going to lock and load and talk about it, along with Scotty Scheffler. Should he be player of the year or not? It's a very interesting question. Fairway to heaven. We're going to lock and load. We're live in 30 seconds. And a very good evening, everybody. Welcome one, welcome all to Fairway to Heaven right here on the STT Sports Network. We are live, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You know the drill wherever you're watching, whichever platform you're watching on. Whether you're watching live or on replay, please, it's free to do. Hit the buttons on your screen in your device, the like button, the share button, the subscribe button. Just click them. It's free to do, costs you nothing to do, and help support this channel as we continue to set the trends for what sports talk should be in Philadelphia and beyond. I'm your man, Phil Stifle, as always. Filling in for Jason this week. We've got Rashad back for the first time. I think it was like early February the last time I had you on, Rashad.
I think it was waste management last time I was on. Yeah,
waste management. It's been a while, way too long. And of course, we got Michael back again this week. We're in Flair country, Greensboro, North Carolina. Woo! Flair country. That's my best Ric Flair impersonation right there. Sedgefield Country Club for the Wyndham Championship. The last event before the FedEx Cup playoffs start. So we're going to break it all down today. But first and foremost, guys, I doing my research, and we've had this conversation on this show, Jason and I, Michael, Jason and I, Rashad in the comments a few times, about whether Scotty Scheffler should be the player of the year. Scotty Scheffler won the Sony Open way back in January, has not won yet or since. But I think the case is very simple, that with all the parity on the PGA Tour this year, that nobody has had a season quite as good as Scotty Scheffler, despite him winning once and only once. We're going to start with you, Rashad, here. That's the poll question of the day, brought to you by nobody. Should Scotty Scheffler win the player of the year despite only one win, yes or no? Rashad, if you were in the chat, how would you be voting right now, and why?
I would probably have to vote no on Scotty Scheffler just because of the one win. And maybe he's held to the standard of himself, but no majors this year. His one event was a non-signature event win. I think this was probably the worst year in terms of winning that he's had, since 2021. It just, to me, it's not the year. I think when you look at stories like Chris Goddard and what he's done this year, even look at Wyndham Clark, what he's done this year, Cam Young, winning the Players and another signature event. I just think that there's the case out there for too many other great stories of guys who have won multiple times this year, that this is just not Scotty's year.
Before, Michael, I let you respond as well. I want to give you a list of things that Scotty Scheffler leads the PGA Tour in 2026. He leads the tour in scoring average. Obviously, FedEx Cup points. He's number one. He's gained more world golf ranking points than anybody else. Leads the tour in birdies, bogey avoidance, strokes gained total, strokes gained tee to green, greens in regulation, scrambling, putts made outside of 25 feet, front nine scoring, back nine scoring, late round four scoring, par four scoring, most top tens, most top threes. He's got the best, like I said, round four scoring the whole entire tour, cumulative major scoring, and he's the money leader this year. Okay? That's a lot of things for only one win, and I get everything Rashad's saying. And yes, he's held to a different standard because he's Scotty. That's a lot of stats to lead the tour in when somebody like Chris Goddard has, 3 wins this year, but also has had a lot of highs and lows. Michael, how would you vote on a poll question? Is Scotty Scheffler the player of the year? Or does he have, I don't even know if player of the year can be voted on after the playoffs. I don't know if it's just up through today or this week or not, but it is just through this week.
That I'm not sure. I was going to say, I think it really depends on how the playoffs go for him. Would be a long way for him being PGA Tour Player of the Year. But as of now, if that's not, I would say no, because I mean, like you said, he only does have the one win. And are you going for wins or are you going for statistics? Because if you're going for outright wins, then it's a little more flashy and people like that better. For the PGA Tour, they're like, oh, a guy that has 10 wins, absolutely, I want him as the when Scotty only has one. Nah, I don't think so. So I mean, do they look at wins or statistics? So
yeah, I mean, but honestly, if you look at it, this year we've seen this, and this is the end of the regular season. I've been doing this since the November Masters Fairway to Heaven, but I've been tracking golf and DFS picks and stuff like that. I don't know, 2017, 2018. I don't know when I started, but it was a while before that. And I don't think I've ever seen a season quite like this where I would guess Jason and I have at least 5 different times said this golfer, X, is the next big thing for 3-4 weeks, and then just disappears.
Yeah.
Bridge, Goddard, Battea, the list goes on of the guys that have this like blown away the PGA Tour for a 3-week stretch, and then we don't hear from them. But yet Scotty Scheffler, still the most top 10s, the most top 3s, scoring the most, the best statistical golfer on tour. Problem is he's only won one time. And I do think it's like a little bit of a double standard, because if you put Scotty's record with any, like just name it, say Scotty's stats this year were Xander Schauffele, I think he'd be the runaway winner. But because it's Scotty Scheffler, we look at it different. Rashad?
Yeah, I agree with that. I also, going back to your first question, I believe that the voting is done after the FedEx Tour, the Tour Championship.
Okay, gotcha. So it's not like in football where Coach of the Year is voted on or MVP at the end of the regular season, not in the playoffs. I wasn't positive on that.
Push to make the FedEx Cups the thing in golf, and so obviously, when it comes to, and I feel like I remember this debate, as this is probably before you guys started doing the show, but I remember the year that Spieth and Jason Day were kind of battling it out for it. They basically kind of came down to the Tour Championship and said basically whoever won the Tour Championship was going to win the Player of the Year. So I think that mind as far as that goes. Yeah, it's what he has done. If you flip it on its head, if anybody else had the season that Scotty Scheffler had, we would be saying that they're a legitimate top 5s in at least 2 majors that I can think of, and countless seconds in signature events and all that stuff, which I also think speaks more to how the PGA Tour has stacked itself negatively, towards the signature events. The whole season doesn't really matter. It really just matters what you do in 13 events, right?
Right.
And that speaks to why his FedEx Cup total is so much higher than everybody else's, is because, he plays more non-signature events than a lot of the other players in the top 10, but I think the reason why is because he performs so well in those specific events that speaks to his total versus a guy like, say, Wyndham Clark, who played in probably more events than him. Between him and Goddard, and Siwoo probably played more events, top to bottom, than anybody else on that list.
Which, by the way, the top 5 of the FedEx Cup standings, it's obviously Scotty Scheffler, and he's got a monster lead. Matthew Fitzpatrick, 2, again, one of those guys, hottest golfer in tour. Cam Young, 3, Wyndham Clark, who you mentioned, 4. This is where I find it weird, and this is why I think we overvalue the wins, because Chris Goddard is the only 3-time winner on tour this year, and he's fifth in the FedEx Cup standings. He's got 3 W's, which in all other sports, wins is in football. If your team does not win, it doesn't matter, right? We talk about it with the Eagles all the time on my morning show. Everyone talks about Jalen Hurts and his stats, but Jalen Hurts wins. That's what should be mattering. And it's hard for me. Like, I'm on the Scotty side of the conversation, but I'm also a guy that cares more about wins in every other sport versus the stats. So I kind of feel like I'm almost contradicting my own philosophies on this here. Michael?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's been a crazy year for that. And I mean, you're talking about Scotty, who, he went and played the 3M Open randomly, a few weeks ago, and he played well. So I think that for Scotty, though, I think if he won a major, there'd be no doubt that he's Player of the Year. So,
but just theoretically, guys, if he goes out, he won the first event of the year. What perfect way then to bookend it and win the Tour Championship? Say he goes out and wins the Tour Championship. Does that lock it up for him then? Is that then what he needs to do? Rashad, you're shaking your head yes on that? Yeah.
I think so. But especially because it would, one, give him another win, obviously. And then if he could stall off and win the BMW and the Tour Championship, and then there's on a debate because he's won 3 times. He's boat raced the entire, tour in terms of FedEx Cup points and everything like that. I think that's different. And then again, looking at it, like compare him to Gotterup. If Chris Gotterup's resume this year, this wouldn't even be a discussion that we're having. We would just be crown him Player of the Year, even though his 3 event wins would be non-major, non-signature events. Versus look at what Chris Gotterup's done, and now we're not even trying to make a discussion about whether or not he deserves it over Scotty, even though he has 3 wins and maybe cuts here and there.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this, Michael, before we get on to this week's event?
No, I think that the FedEx Cup playoffs, around the corner, I think it'll really determine who is actually the number one, between, I would say, Gotterup, Scotty, Cameron Young, how he plays this week too. I mean, it is a smaller field this week, but I think all 3 of those guys, how they go into the playoffs and how they play in the playoffs will definitely determine where they're going to go for that Player of the Year.
On a side note, as we're breaking this down, and Rashad, I know you spent a lot of time around the game of golf in your life. Does the FedEx Cup, they're constantly trying to change the tour. We got in 2028, the 2 different tours and so many things. Do they have to, if they want the Tour Championship to really mean something, do they got to reevaluate how they give out these FedEx Cup points and the FedEx Cup structure itself? Like, they're so focused on the Champions Tour and the Challengers Tour and all these other things, when a guy that's won 3 times isn't in first place in the standings. Like, is there something there that needs to be changed?
I think that it will be changed based on everything that I've heard about how they're changing the structure of everything with the 2 basically separate tours. And then it will be a little bit more balanced. I think that will lead to a little bit more parity. But we've basically run into we kind of talked about it before we went live, that we've kind of run into a situation almost that we were in, 15 years ago, when Tiger used to be able to skip the first playoff event every year and somehow find himself in the Tour Championship, firmly in the Tour Championship, and with these signature event. And honestly, the system was very similar to what was then, because back then we had the WGCs, which were no-cut events that had an abundance of FedEx Cup points that guys in the top 50 in the world just, loaded up on, and they could skip some of these lesser events. And I think we've kind of basically reverted back to that same situation where these guys can get so many more FedEx Cup points playing in these 9 signature events and then the majors, that they don't have to play an entire schedule. Look at what Rory's done. I think that's has just been absolutely terrible for the PGA Tour this year. And any of the other top players decided to do exactly what he did, the tour would have a real problem with the networks. And I think that's something that they have to address going forward.
They definitely have to address things like the Rory. Go ahead, Michael.
No, I was going to say, I think that in a couple of years, it'll be really interesting to see how they work it. I kind of hope they do a little more match play. They kind of left that, in the last couple of years. And I think match play is really, really good for golf. And I think that they didn't realize what they were missing until it was gone. And I think that that's going to be, if they do it right, I think match play is going to really be awesome for the tour. So.
Oh, I love the idea of the championship and match play. I've been very open about the fact that they got rid of the wrong tournament. When they got rid of WGC match play, they got rid of the wrong one. They should have gotten rid of the Zurich. I know some people like the Zurich. I hate the Zurich. I hate tag team, golf. But, I'm excited for that. But let's get to this week. Obviously, it's the Wyndham Championship. It's at Sedgefield Country Club down in Greensboro, North Carolina, as I like to call it, Flair Country, for the wrestling fans out there. We were talking a little bit before the show about this. And it's kind of crazy. This new format, top 70, and get to the playoffs, that in the 3 years that this new format's been in place, only 2 golfers have been able during the Wyndham Championship to move from outside to inside the playoffs. It's a lot. It doesn't sound like it should be that difficult, right? You look at the FedEx Cup standings right now. Number 70, Jackson Coyvin, has 558 points. Spot 71 is Mac Meisner at 546. Only 12 points back. And you would think it wouldn't be that hard for guys to move up or out of it, but only twice has it happened. In 2023, when Lucas Glover won to make a big jump, and then last year it was Chris Kirk. Chris Kirk was able to advance about a dozen spots to get in with a 5th place finish at that. So it leads me. I know so you guys are more stat guys. I'm more narrative and vibe guy. I don't know if the whole the pressure of making the playoffs is really as big of a storyline this week as some people would make it out to be. Michael, what do you think about that?
I think it's correct. I like the fact of the guys being on the outside coming in, and I think that they'll play. Some of them will play really well, but I think it just also is form, because I mean, you don't want to play a guy that's just barely on the outside of 70 that's been terrible for weeks. I mean, but he just happens to get in because he had a couple of good finishes. I mean, and his form's not good, then I wouldn't play him. So.
Rashad, someone like you who's played in golf tournaments before and you've swung a lot of golf clubs, what would your mindset be? Say you were like 85th in the FedEx Cup standings, and you know that the odds are, unless you win, what else is there to do? How would you go into this event? Would you go in Thursday and Friday just going completely nuts and just trying to shoot a 59 or something like that to get yourself a chance to win? Or would you just be trying to play your basic game, make what kind of money you can, earn the world golf ranking points or whatever it may be? What would be your mindset going into an event like this?
I think if I was in 80th, or let's take Dave Thompson for example, he's first. I think my opinion is, Tiger used to always say, you can't win a golf tournament on Thursday, but you can lose it, right? You can't do anything crazy on Thursday and Friday because you got to make the cut, right? Because if you don't, all this is for nothing. So, the first thing you do is you play your game. You make it through Friday. You get to Saturday morning, and then when you get to Saturday morning, then you start going guns blazing. Because at this point, what are you swinging for, right? So, the key is that you got to be steady. You got to control your nerves. Especially the guys that are right around the cut line that don't have their cards locked up. Like, it's interesting. Look at Koiven at 70. Well, he just won, so obviously he's locked up a scorecard for the next 2.5 years, right? Look at 71st. It's Mac Meisner. He's not guaranteed anything for next year. So the dynamic of those two, two things aren't always created equal, and so it'll be interesting to see how those players play, even though they're only one spot apart. Their mindsets are going to be completely different.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Because also, if you win, you could, if Koiven fell out of the top 70, he still got his tour card. So it's not like there is literally no pressure on him outside of just playing his game. But yeah, I mean, I think they're very interesting thoughts there. But what are we facing here at Sedgefield? This is a course that's hosted this event many of times. We know course history. I know, Michael, you're not a course history, guy, so to speak, but we do seem to see the same type of golfers and the same golfers. Hell, who is it? Is Webb Simpson named his daughter Wyndham after this tournament? I mean, Webb Simpson is always in play at an event at this event. This is one of those very predictive courses that the same golfers and the same style of golfers, succeed here. Michael, it's a 7,100, just over 7,100 par 70 course. What kind of golfers are you looking at this week, Michael?
Well, with the Bermuda greens and not too much water, just enough to wash the golf balls off and everything, I'm kind of looking at approach and putting. I was looking at a lot of stuff that in the last 5 years, a lot of the golfers that putted lights out and were scoring well with their approach completely were on top of the leaderboard, and a lot of them were winners, but there was a lot of guys in the top 10 that were just right there with their putting and approach. So I'm looking at those two along with scoring average, which I don't usually put in, but a lot of the guys I think that have been playing really, really well at the easier courses that have been shooting, under 70. I'm looking at a lot of those guys right now because I think that this course will, you're going to shoot really low at this course and a lot of birdies. So you're going to want guys with a better scoring average than most.
K1 wants to know, for Shad, if you're a stat guy or a vibe guy. Are you on Michael's side or my side, where I'm looking for narratives and random stories? Like, I've got one on why I think I know who's winning this event, but go ahead, Rashad.
I'm a little bit of both. I'm definitely a stats guy. Not as deep as some, but better than most. And then, it is a vibes thing too, because I think that, when you talk about course history, it's a course history thing. One, because this course has sticky course history on its own and event history, but it's also, Pete Dye guys tend to play well at Pete Dye courses. You look at Heritage, you look at the players, even within those collective 3 events, even PGA West to some degree, you see the same kinds of guys, even if it's not the same guys at each one, you see the same kinds of guys kind of pop on those leaderboards because of the style of the golf course. So yes, I'm looking at a ton of stats for this event, but it is a very big course history course as well.
Yeah.
The one narrative that I read just before, earlier today, and I'm going with Hideki Matsuyama. That's the guy I think that's going to win because he fits a lot of the stats, but not one golfer has won this event over the last 5 years without at least one top 5 in his previous 5 starts. And all the guys, there's a lot. Davis Thompson's a very popular name this week. We'll get to him in a minute. Jackson Koiven, Cam Young. There's all these names, that are very popular this week. Hideki's got the top 5s, not just one, multiple in his last couple starts. So, I like to mix it vibe and stats as well. But course history, I'm not a course history guy, except for when we're on Pete Dye positional courses, just like Rashad said. And I would venture, if you went through my outright chart, I bet you half of my outrights over the 5 years I've been tracking them have all been on Pete Dye courses. Like, really have been. I don't know what it is about those courses. I tend to find positional golf easier to handicap, if that's the right way to say it, than a bombing like last week. I had a terrible week last week because Rasmus and Michael Brennan collapsed, but the bomb and gouge is difficult for me to figure out. I'm gonna counter to or add on to what Michael said. Michael said approach and putting. I'm also talking about accuracy off the tee. Accuracy does matter because you've got to be in the fairway on a course like this, for sure. But Rashad, what are you looking at golfer-wise, statistically speaking, this week?
Well, the big one, because it's par 70, you're definitely looking hard at par 4 scoring. I mean, especially shorter par 4 scoring. It seems like a wide range of these holes, kind of 400 to 450 range. So you're looking at, which kind of plays into the wedge game, and the short iron game for approach play, but also it's a bigger driver accuracy course, which Pete Dye courses tend to be, especially at this part of the country. You look at players, it's a driver accuracy course more than a distance course. You look at Heritage, driver accuracy course or driving accuracy course over distance, even though distance has started to play a little bit more of a role as the best players play it. But this is another one. I mean, we saw, Tom Kim is probably one of the shortest hitters of the top players in the world, and he won this event, 4 years ago. Even Cam, longer player, but accurate off the tee. It's interesting that you like Hideki this year, given that his driver has kind of been his downfall this year.
Well, the other thing I look at, I always talk about, whenever we're at an accuracy course, if you're a great approach player, sometimes accuracy doesn't matter. I mean, if you're playing in U.S. Open rough, that's one thing. But the guys that hit the ball further tend to have a shorter approach shot in. Instead of having 175, they got 150. Instead of using a 6 or 7 iron, they're using a pitching wedge, which then gives them the opportunity to stop the ball on the green a lot easier, and things like that. So I tend to look at these driving accuracy courses a little differently, because I think accuracy, I'm not trying to say, I definitely put accuracy on my model this week and what I'm looking at, but I want the longer of the accurate hitters or the guys that just barely miss the fairway, just a little bit, and then they have the shorter approach shots in.
I don't disagree with that. It's more of it, and most tour courses, they're dealing with the rye rough, which is a little bit easier to get your club through. Sedgefield, this is a southern course in the middle of the summer. It's going to be full on Bermuda rough, which can be patchy. And, you could have 2 balls 2 feet apart and the lies are going to be completely different. And one person could be able to get that club face on the ball and get some spin on it. And the other one, you're just hoping to, get it out of there. It is going to be interesting. You do want to see the guys kind of playing out of the short grass this week. But yes, obviously, if they're going to be playing out of the rough, then yeah, you want to be closer to the hole.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead, Michael.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I agree with that a lot. And I think too, having scoring average too in there, it kind of generates, because I mean, I had said something similar last week with par four scoring. If you're doing well on the par four scoring, you're generally, I think, kind of hitting it, in the fairway more, and your approach game is a little more. So I always try to look at the underlying stats that kind of go along with, whatever the driving accuracy or the approach game might be.
All right, so let's take a look at the field this week. Obviously, I had it written down. Where is it? 60. There's only 6 top 25 golfers, but there's a lot of golfers in that 60 to 80 in the FedEx Cup. It's a very good field event here. It's not as great as it could be, but it's a very good field. Because there's so few guys in the top of the board, we're going to, kind of group the 9 and the 10K, range together. Obviously, with Patrick Cantlay's withdrawal, Cam Young and Jackson Koiven are the only 2 guys priced above 10K, but there's some other names here. Hideki, who I like, Tom Kim, who you mentioned. One of the more popular names I'm hearing across the board is Ben Griffin this week. Rashad, we'll start with you. In this 9K up to Cam Young, what are your favorite plays, and who will you be targeting this week in this range?
The 4 I have starred, obviously, the top 2, Cameron Young, the defending champion, and Jackson Koiven, who had a top 5 here, I believe, last year.
He did.
I have Tom Kim at 9,200 and Ben Griffin at 9,100. My big thing is that, we've talked about the course history and event history. I'm big on they need to either have great event history here or they need to be in really good form. And some of these are both. Ben Griffin has started to play a lot better this year, the last few weeks. Tom Kim obviously has had a really good summer, finishing second in at least one major. I'm pretty sure he played well at the Open as well. Cam in this event last year. I think that, these 4 are kind of going to be the benchmark of where I'm going this.
And I love those names. I'm a little concerned the amount of podcasts that are talking about Ben Griffin this week, and at that price, that when you start to hear every podcast and every tweet, about Ben Griffin this, Ben Griffin that drives up the ownership percentage a little bit to me, and it worries me because I think there are quite a few solid plays in this upper range here. I will say I think they got Cam Young's price wrong. I think Cam Young should be 11K, 11.2 in this type of a field with the defending champion. His success this year, I think he should be higher priced.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that Jackson Koiven's price being so high, being the number 2 guy on the board, maybe that drives his ownership down. So I'll sway Koiven over Young. But before I give my other plays in this range, Michael, what do you got in this range?
I actually really like Ryan Gerard this week.
Love
I love him this week, and
I should have said who I wanted to play first, because that was the name I was going to pull out right there. Go ahead.
Pulled a Jason this week. So.
Yeah, you're sniping my play in the range.
Hey, I mean he's been coming in really good form, and you want to talk about somebody that's plays decent here, and he also is in great form, is Ryan Gerard. And I think that he is a little sneakier, and I don't think he's going to be as owned because he's smack dab in the middle of JT, Tom Kim, and Griffin. So I mean they're gonna I think that they're gonna pivot to those guys, and I think Ryan Gerard's a great pivot over that.
Yeah, I think Ryan Gerard, he's top 25 on tour and approach, top 25 putter on tour. He's made a crap ton of cuts this year. I don't even know if has he missed any cuts this year. If he has, it's not many. He's got 3 or 4 top 3s this year. The only thing Ryan Gerard is missing this year is a win. So I love Ryan Gerard this week. I think Ryan Gerard's an excellent DFS play, and I think he will go under the radar in the with this field. You don't have to get into the 6K much, if at all. I'd be very happy starting a lineup with a Tom Kim and a Ryan Gerard, a Jackson Koiven and a Ryan Gerard. One of the chalk guys, Ben Griffin or whatever, and Ryan Gerard. I think that gives you a very, very well-balanced start to a lineup.
I love Jackie Gerard.
Matt McNeely had 7 birdies on par 4s his final round last week. Well, there you go. I'm a huge Matt McNeely guy. I always feel like he's a very underappreciated golfer. But for some reason, he's not a play for me this week, and I'm not sure why. I got to pull it up. Maybe he's got bad course history. Maybe he hasn't been good lately. Let me pull up his player profile right now. He hasn't been in great form. T34 at the 3M, missed cut at the Open, 55 at the Travelers. Yeah, he hasn't had a top 20 since the Memorial, so it's been a while. Let me see his course history here. Great approach player, though. He's got a T45 and a missed cut the 2 times he's teed it up here. Yeah, I'm normally in this kind of a field all over Matt McNeely, and I'm not. Rashad, do you like Matt McNeely this week for K1's comment?
He didn't pique my interest this week, but it's funny because Matt McNeil is, everybody has those golfers that whenever they use them, they miss the cut, and he's one that no matter if I'm super confident in him, he's gonna miss the cut. It's just how it works. I try to play him as much as I can on the West Coast so that I don't have to play him at all after that. But yeah, he did not pique my interest this week, but I can see on him.
Yeah, I mean he's not like he's a guy I play. I tend to get him right. On the DFS side of things, and I still, he's not piquing my interest this week.
His approach game is off lately, so that's why
him. He's typically one of the best ball striker approach players, iron players in the game, and it's been off this week. Now, I think a player pool around Koiven, Cam Young as well, obviously, Gerard, Tom Kim, Ben Griffin. Those are the names in Hideki that I think you could really start your lineup with. And because of the soft pricing at the top, you still don't have to dip much into the 6K, if at all. I actually will say I was very high. I had originally bet Patrick Cantlay. With what I saw last week with him, I was really high on Patrick Cantlay this week. I thought Patrick Cantlay was going to be a really good play. I think it was the biggest bet I made of the week was on Patrick Cantlay at 20-1. So I did like him. But let's dip into the 8K range. Because I think there's some really good names here in the 8K range. There's just like Ben Griffin. I think maybe the second chalkiest play of the week might be Davis Thompson in this range. But I want to start with Michael Brennan in this range and get your guys' thoughts on his final round, especially Rashad. Brennan killed me last week. I had a huge outright on Rasmus Højgaard, which upset me. But Michael Brennan, I was in King of the Draft with Spencer Aguilar's group of people doing that, and I was tracking to dominate that, and his final round destroyed me. And I said that on this show last week. All you need out of Michael Brennan is 3 good rounds and him not to collapse on Sunday. And he collapsed on Sunday, and he cost me. And I think he may have overtaken, this might be pre both of you guys watching this show, he has overtaken Matt Wolff as captain of the Dead to Me team. And I will never, ever, ever play Michael Brennan again or bet him again until I don't know when. Rashad, what's it got to be like for a golfer like Brennan to be so close, one of the only golfers to make every cut at a major this year, and then just constantly, he can't win. There's something up here in the head that on Sundays it falls apart.
Well, first of all, since we're resetting last week, I went into Sunday with my 5 of 6 lineup had Cam Young, Ricky Fowler, and Michael Brennan leading it. I was in like 20th place with a 5 of 6. Ended up not making any money. So yeah, thanks Michael Brennan for that. No, but among others. But no, it's interesting. Michael Brennan is an interesting case because a lot of people seem to forget because of how well he's played this year. He wasn't supposed to be on the PGA Tour this year. He was supposed to be on the Korn Ferry Tour. And then he got into the Black Desert over in the summer, in the fall, and won and got his. There's a lot of learning that's going on with Michael Brennan about how to PGA Tour golfer over the course of the season. And I think when people remember that about him, it doesn't make these collapse. I mean, yes, they hurt our pocketbooks, they hurt our lineup, but this kid is, I think he's like 24 years old, and he is ahead of where his learning curve should be at this point. So, I'm willing to forgive him for that because I think that this is almost like Nick Dunlap, like as long as he doesn't fall in that tank, I think that the future is bright for this kid. And I think he's going to do.
Yeah. I mean, his performance in the 4 majors tells me the future is very bright for this kid as well. And I'm being semi-sarcastic with him and stuff like that because it hurt my pocket like you last week. I had multiple lineups fall out of the money because of Brennan last week. So, Michael, let's start with you here in the 8K range. Who are you looking at and who you targeting in this 8K range?
Well, it's not Brennan, but I would say it's funny about Brennan because I am always on Brennan. And last week I was not on Brennan. So maybe that's the key for you guys to have a good Brennan play is me playing Brennan. But I really like Alex Fitzpatrick this week. He's taken a little bit of time off and from his missed cut, and I think they'll come back, and I think he'll play really, really well. But him, and I never say this about him, but I actually really like Jordan Spieth too. Actually, I don't know what it is. I do not like Jordan Spieth ever. And I don't know. I like him this week a lot. It's a gut feeling I got this week, and I think that
I love a good gut feeling. I love a gut feeling.
Little positive regression, maybe. I don't know. I feel him.
Hold on. What did you say? What did you say? What kind of regression?
Positive regression.
So that is a real term. I use that term all the time with football, baseball, basketball, and everyone tells me I'm nuts for using that phrase. I'm glad I finally heard somebody else use positive regression as a phrase. Yeah. I am not on Spieth. Spieth has had a topsy-turvy year, but I like the thought process you're going with there. Rashad, where are you at in the 8K range?
So it's funny because I had to I did not have Michael Brennan starred, probably for the same bitter reasons that you don't, but I have played Brennan the last 2 weeks, and I said I told myself mentally that I was going to keep playing him until he really didn't finish well. I have Alex Fitzpatrick starred. My favorite play in the 8K range right now, I think, is probably Aaron Rye. He has great history here. Had a pretty good season. He's probably the quietest major winner since Stewart Cink. That people forget that he actually won a major. And beyond that, it's funny. The two guys at the bottom of the 8K range that I starred at before we looked at the FedEx points earlier in the show was Mac Meisner and Davis Thompson. And I will probably end up unstarring both of them because of where they sit on the standings.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna. So first off, you're dead on. I know he's missed 2 straight cuts, but Aaron Rye I think is a fantastic play, and I think with those 2 missed cuts, and at his price of 8,800, I think you're gonna find him severely under-owned in this tournament. And he shouldn't be, especially winning. It was a win and then a T5 the last 2 years at this event. I think Aaron Rye is a slam dunk to make the cut and make a pretty good charge this week. Didn't bet him to win, but I think I could see him having a very, very strong finish. I love Mac Meisner this week. I think Mac Meisner, I know what we talked about with the FedEx Cup standings, but I think he is a great, great play here this week. I took half of my bet of Patrick Cantlay and laid it on Mac Meisner to win. It doesn't quite fit my narrative of you got to have a top 5 to win, but he does have a top 6 in his last 4 starts, so really close there. I do like that. So to me, it's like you could do a Ryan Gerard, Aaron Rye build to start with. Then you can play any chalk you want because I think both those guys are going to be at their price. Very, very safe plays in the ownership side of things. It's just tough for me. I love Davis Thompson. Do you like Davis Thompson if Davis Thompson's owned by 25, 30% of the lineups doing it? Because I really think Davis Thompson could get in that 25%, ownership range this week.
I'd rather pivot to Meisner on that.
Absolutely.
And Meisner is my second favorite in the 8Ks. And so, I would definitely I saw a Rye thing today that he absolutely loves the setup of the greens here because he said the slope from back to front, he believes he can hit it higher and land it closer and softer. And he really likes that about this course with this trajectory on his irons. So
I like that. I like that little nugget there. Any thoughts? Obviously, you mentioned Jordan Spieth, but there are some big names in this range, obviously. You've got Keegan Bradley, you've got Brooks Koepka, you've got Brian Harman, Jordan Spieth, big names in this range. We talked a little bit before we went live about Brooks Koepka. Just real quick before we get back to it, Rashad, real quick, thoughts on Brooks Koepka's first year back on the PGA Tour? Because this very well could be the last time we see him till the fall or maybe till next year on tee it up.
Yeah, I think that given the circumstances, it probably was probably very awkward for him at first. Mm-hmm. He had a really good ball striking year. I think he was himself tee to green most of the year. It was the putter, and it was a lot similar to kind of what we saw with Scotty before he started winning, where it just seemed like he was ball striking his way through every event, and then he just when it came down to the putting, he just couldn't get. And I just think that, this off season, at least he knows where he needs to focus himself. And I think maybe there's some mental side of it as well. But if he can get that figured out, man, I think that you're going to see good things from Brooks Koepka next year.
Yeah, I totally agree with the way you ended it. Big things next year, Michael.
Yep, I totally agree with that too. I think that there's a lot of guys I think that they're putting. They're going to, golfers, these professionals, they want to work on everything that's not been working right. So, all these guys that, kind of get out, of this tournament and are not in the playoffs, kind of watch them for next year and watch, which guys were not doing well in a certain category and see, if they make a putting change, in the off season, or they make an iron change in the off season, if their approach wasn't good, and, start firing on them all cylinders in the beginning of next year.
You feel like
the comment from K1, positive regression for Koepka next year. 100%.
Oh, next year, yeah.
Yes, next year, 100%. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Prashad.
More of a mindset thing too. I think that there was a part of him, especially with his kind of ego and bravado, that maybe he just thought that he would just come in, play a few events, make enough points, get into the Siggies, and then be set. Because he was already in the majors, or he would have enough good performances in the majors to get in the Siggies. And then as the season kind of went on, he started grinding a little bit. And especially if you're struggling with something as ticky-tack as putting can be, when it starts getting in your head that things are not going the way you want them to go, putting is probably one of the first ones to go. And I think that he'll come in with a different mindset next year of being a little bit hungrier, and that will change the way things go as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, let's get to the 7K range, because I think the 7K range is really tricky this week. It really is. So I've built 5 lineups so far, and I've got 4 plays from 8K and above, and that's it, right? We've gone over our favorites. I've got 9 guys that I've starred and I've used at least once. And I've got another 8 guys I kind of like, and I'm having trouble zoning in on who's my favorite 7K play. You got Eric Cole, you've got Blades Brown, the young kid, you got Ben James, the young kid. You could go all over the place here in this range. Rico Hoy has done well at times. Bo Hostler has good course history here. You could go all over the place. Michael, you're shaking your head. Give me 2 or 3 names that you like in this 7K range, and why.
I actually really like Jordan Smith. I think that he's a guy that's kind of interesting and kind of going to be overlooked. His putting hasn't been that great, but I kind of could see him playing well here on an easier course. And he's been shooting. He's one of the guys I was looking at for scoring average, and he's been shooting lights out recently. So all 4 rounds. So, you're looking at, the all 4 rounds under 70 bonus. That's what I'm really looking at too this week, is how many of those guys could get you 4 rounds under 70 par and, score really, really well. So Jordan Smith's a guy. I love Blades Brown this week. I was going back and forth between him and Benjamin James, and I kind of really, I just went with Blades Brown just because. And I don't like it because, I have not liked Coles at all because he's not great, but he's been great. So I'm I'm a little torn on Ben Coles because I know if I add him, he probably won't play great because I haven't added him. So what's your guys' thoughts on Ben Coles?
Well, I mean, I like both Ben James and Blades Brown, and I'm going to play, both of them this week. Just how much of each of them, I haven't quite figured that out yet. Rashad, where are you at here in this range and with some of those names?
Well, first of all, Coles was second in my model behind Jackson Coyven this week. So it's been a similar thread that we said with Michael Brennan, is that even though the finishing results are not necessarily there, he has played solid golf all summer. And I think he will continue to, and especially as somebody grinding to get his card, I think he's kind of on the bubble both here and on Korn Ferry. So I think, even people, I think he was raising eyebrows about whether he should even play this event. But so he's going to play hard. Obviously, we could talk about the pressure and everything, but Doug Gim rated high for me. Poston is a good vibes play. Chris Kirk has played really good golf lately. A name that has been sneaky up on leaderboards for a while is Michael Kim, and I've got him starred as kind of a good vibes play too, because he's just been playing really good golf lately. He had a sneaky top 10 last week, and it was, he didn't do it with a 59, but he did. So he's clearly feeling it right now. So why not?
Michael Kim is feeling it. He's got very inconsistent course history here. I had it, then I closed it out. Hold on a second. He's got a bunch of really good finishes, T5 and 23. He's made the cut a bunch of times here. He's also missed the cut, a few times here, but he's vibing right now for sure. We got a question on Ben James. Why the love for Ben James? I'm pulling up his player profile because he's played really well. 4th at the Punta Cana, 38th at the Rocket, 15th at Isco. He's a young kid. Made the cut at the U.S. Open, as a young kid as well. I watched a bunch of that final round of the Punta Cana Championship, and he was in the final grouping, and he got so much good experience for a young kid in that final grouping. It's just, the Italian dude just came from behind and just blew the field away there in that final round. I forget his name already, the Italian dude. Mazzoli, that's right. Yeah. I like what the young kids got makeup-wise. I actually like Ben James a little bit more than Blades Brown at this point, but that's just me. But I love your play, Michael, on the Smith call. I'll even throw Matt Wallace in there as well. But literally all these names that you guys have both made, they're all on my list at this point. I just can't zone in. Like, I'm trying to have a nice, tight, player pool, and I just can't do it. I've written down names like Jackson Suber and Johnny Kiefer, guys that are young up-and-comers that just haven't gotten their first win. There's a lot to love, and I think Rashad, you named them. 2 names I think are sneaky down here are the Poston and the Kirk plays. I think they're both very, very good sneaky plays down here at the bottom of the board. Yeah,
Horschel is another one. I mean, he's like played pretty decent. I think he played decent at an event recently. Was it Punta Cana or one of them? He's team. If you're a team good vibes, he plays. Yep. So he would be a good cheap one at 7,100 to look at as well.
Yep, absolutely. What about? I mean, this could come down to a putting contest. He's not on my board, but I starred him because maybe he's got good course history too here. I'm trying to look it up. He's accurate. He's not long. He putts great. He's one of the best putters on tour. Just finished in the top 5 at the 3M Open not too long ago. Let me see his Sedgefield Country Club. He's got an 11th here last year, 33rd, a 15th, a 9th, a 22nd, all just in this event. Somebody like Denny McCarthy on a week like this. He's a guy that popped for me. Now, I haven't clicked on him yet, but he's a name I think that it's definitely, if you're into successful players at this golf course, Denny McCarthy is a name you can absolutely play. I wrote him down as a maybe bet, and I didn't land on him as a final number, but, there's another name you could get into right there. 6K range. I have not yet. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you like Seabez? Because you always like Seabez, and he's, as far as his stats, he was one of the highest that I had next to, the top tier level. So
Seabez is on my player pool list. I have not clicked on him yet. The love I have of Seabez is really fake and not real. People think I love Seabez just because I accidentally, 3 years ago, called him Bazoodanhoot, and I've stuck with that name. And K1, if listening, loves to tell me to have a Bazoodanhoot morning every day on the morning show. I think there's a lot of fake love that I have for Bazoodanhoot. He's not a young kid. He's in his 30s now. He's an accurate golfer. He putts really well. Let me see his course history here. It's got to be good at a course like this, right? Yeah, he's played it 5 times. He's never missed a cut, but he's never finished better than T22. So, do I love
you get what you pay for in 7K, though?
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to get 4 rounds out of him. Are you going to get better than T20 from him? Probably not. And I think you've got more. If you need a safe play, yes, Seabez is a great play this week. I don't think he can make a run to win. I've seen a couple people betting him to win this week. I don't think he's got any chance to win or even be in the top 5, come Sunday. That's just my opinion on him.
Shot has better upside as far as that winning potential goes, for whatever reason. So,
yeah. Any different thoughts on that there?
No, I clicked his name while you were asking because I was going back through the names I hadn't clicked because I kind of, stuck to my original plan. So as you guys were talking, I was kind of looking over the names that you were mentioning, and I had already clicked Seabez's name because he finished pretty high in my model. And I think he's a pretty solid play. But it allows you to kind of get different other places, like you said. I don't think a lot of people, necessarily will be on him with Poston and Cole and Grazer by. So
it's if you want to take somebody, like say Davis Thompson at 25, 28%, sure, then you go Seabez and you balance out that ownership, side of things if you need to. 6K. I have not clicked a single 6K name. I don't think you have to. I've got 2 names starred and written down that I'm intrigued by. One name I want to mention is why there's, I think, something wrong with the FedEx Cup standings. We got a guy in the 6K range that has won this year on tour. Yes, not a signature event, but he is not even close. He's pretty much got to, I think I read somewhere he's got to finish in the top 10 this week to make it into the top 70. And that's Brent Snedeker, who got his first win in like a decade this year. He's like my poster child this year on what's wrong with the FedEx Cup standings. He's a winner, right? I know he's not had a great season this year, but he's had a good enough season, and he's won an event. And, probably should be, in the playoffs. I've starred his name, and I starred Ventura. Obviously, we got to see a lot of him last week in the final round on TV. Didn't quite get it done, but his last 4 events, he's got 2 top 5s and a top 15 in his last 4 events and made the cut in all 4 last events. Obviously, he's had a horrible season before the last 4 events, but they're the only 2 names that I could even come close to getting behind this week in the 6K range. So, Rashad, you got any names in the 6K range?
I also only starred 2 names, and it's 2 different names. And it's Joel Damon, based on vibes, and then Tom Hoagie, who is a kind of a name that I've kind of heard in the back of my head for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Haven't played much of him, but that's really it. It was just those 2. There was a few names that I'm like, oh, that's a good name. Oh, that's a good name. But then I look at how they modeled out, and they just didn't model out.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the soft pricing, I don't think the 6K. Like I said, you could use 2 or 3 guys, 9K and above, and still get away with not touching the 6K range. Michael, will you be playing any guys in the 6K range?
Probably only Ventura. I do have 2 as well. Ventura is my number 1 this week. I had him as my number 1 last week too in the 6K, and he did very well for my 5 or 6 lineup. And if it wasn't for Knapp or Batia, I might have taken down something. But I also have Doe.
Marty Doe.
Yeah. And his stats, he's kind of another positive regression guy. He's been playing a little bit better. And his stats are okay. They're kind of middle of the range, middle of the pack. For what I was looking at. But if I took a gander, I'd probably play both of those guys. And some, if I'm playing 20 max, I'm playing a couple of those guys.
Gotcha. All right, let's build some lineups. First and foremost, I did not get Jason's one and done in the text chat. Did you see a one and done go through there? I know it was out there with the people, and I missed it. I don't think he put it. We'll check with him. I know you put yours. Who's your one and done this week, Michael?
Jordan Smith.
You're Jordan Smith. I'm going with Davis Thompson as my one and done this week. So DFS wise, I won the DFS contest last week. So the order for this week's exercise, Rashad, you get the first pick in the draft. Michael, you get to go second. And I'm going to bring up the wheel here at the back end of the draft. So, Rashad, you get to build a lineup. Who are you starting your lineup with?
Scotty Scheffler. No, let's.
You wish.
I will go ahead and kick it off. You know what? I'll take Koiven.
It's a very good first pick. There's no 9K and above name that's a bad pick. Michael, who you go with your first pick?
I'm gonna go Gerard.
I really should have gone first, just so I could have gotten one of those 2 names right there. All right, so I'm on the back end of it, so I get to go twice. So for the purposes of the show, I'm going to go put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to go Hideki 1, and I am going to go Mac Meisner 2.
All right.
So you're back up on the board there, Michael.
And then I'm going to go Alex Fitzpatrick.
Are we sure that's his first name?
Yes. We are this time.
This time. We're not going to call him Aragon Fitzpatrick this time?
Aragorn.
Let's see. I'm trying to scroll. I will go. I'll take Michael Kim.
You get another one here on the turnaround.
Second one on the go around. I'll go Aaron Rye.
We are all on the same guys this week, 1,000%. It's going to make this contest so much harder to do this week. Michael, you're up.
I will go with. Actually, I'm going to go with Ventura again. I'm going to play Ventura.
All right. Well, that takes that out of the equation for me. I just don't have good luck with this stuff. I'm going to go Cam Young to start with. And I was going to go Ventura right after that. But
I was going to go Ventura than Young.
So you kind of killed me there.
You killed me there.
We'll go with Rico Hoy in the next spot. I like Rico Hoy this week.
That's funny. All right. Well, I'm going to go with Smith. Will Smith.
Who?
Will Smith.
Who?
Jordan Smith. Jordan L. Smith. J.L. Smith.
You still haven't stopped falling for the Who. You know, come on now. You got to stop falling for the Who.
I'm gonna go. You know what? Just for fun, I'll go Coles. And then on the wraparound, I will go. I'll go Tom Kim.
Okay.
All the 8K guys. You know what? I might have to go way under here.
We're all on the same guys. It makes it very difficult this week.
I know, yeah.
You know, normally every week there's different guys that we all like, and it makes it a little easier to do this little exercise. But not this week when we're all on the same 8 names this week. So
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I'm not sure. When me and Jason are both on the same page, normally it's a bad thing. So, you know.
I'll go Spieth.
My final 2 picks, I'm going to go Seabez, and I'm going to go Ben James with my final 2 picks. Doesn't leave anything on the table, but for this exercise, I don't need to. I've kind of gotten away from leaving so much on the table lately. I'm even maxing out a few times, which I used to never do, but I've gotten back into. I've read some things that maxing out sometimes is not awful, depending on the contest you're in. And something I wrote down, I forgot to bring that up. And where did I put that note? I thought I wrote it down after last week. Somebody said that. Oh, man, I can't find it. That know your contest, when you're picking your lineups. It's a very important little, factoid that we're not all playing GPPs for $1 million every single week. So knowing that makes a difference. All right, Michael, your final pick?
Eric? I'll pick Maverick.
Maverick?
Maverick McNeely.
Yep. And Rashad, your final pick?
I'm going to take somebody that we hadn't talked about, but I'm going to take South Carolina guy Lucas Glover.
Ooh,
Glover. Will he be wearing his shoes when he's putting or no?
Hopefully, spike up the greens for everybody else. Give him a.
As a guy that works at a golf course, how do you feel about the whole spike issue there, and his statement of going without his shoes?
First of all, I think his statement was absolutely correct. I mean, they tap down literally anything they want. So the fact that it was an issue, I'm always surprised that guys still wear metal spikes. I'm like the opposite, and I probably have the worst traction in the world on the golf course. But I haven't worn metal spikes since I was like 14. So
I started golfing in 1999. I've never owned metal spikes ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, never.
I don't think I have either.
I do.
But that's weird. You would have think they would have told him before the tournament, because wasn't it towards the end of his round anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just funny. Everyone thought it was all aim point related and turned out to be spike related, whatever. All right, so we got our lineups built here. Real quick, I want to run over my bets for anybody that's listening. I do have Ben Griffin 35.5 to 1, Hideki 32 to 1, Davis Thompson 62 to 1, and then I took my Patrick Cantley bet and flipped it into a Mac Meisner 45-1, Ben James 70-1, and I do have Michael Kim 90-1 because I do just love Michael Kim as a golfer and as a person. So they're my bets, all with top 10s and top 20 matching. And thank goodness I do that because last week would have been a total disaster. But because I had Davis Thompson and Rasmus Højgaard outrights, and their top 10 numbers were so great last week that I turned a profit last week off of the top 10 and top 20 bets on Rasmus and Davis Thompson. So they were two very, very strong bets for me last week, despite them not pulling it out at the end. So go ahead.
I think that's what hurt me the most about Brennan was that it's not that he didn't win; it's the fact that he didn't finish in the top 5 or the top 10.
Dude, like he fell so far down that list, and he was on my king of the draft lineup. All he had to do was finish in the top 10,
right.
And I'm advanced in the king of the draft with Spencer. That Lord BLT guy, whatever his name is, I never met the guy before doing that show. Great guy, works for CBS Sports doing golf coverage. Also grinds out WNBA fantasy stats all the time on his account. He got lucky. He got lucky that Michael Brennan collapsed. Otherwise, I'd be picking in the Elite Eight, not him. Just going to say it. Throwing it out there.
Didn't he have 2 doubles in the back 9, Brennan?
Yeah.
I mean, he might have had 2 quadruples for all I know. I mean, like the dude was just all over the place there.
Yeah, he hit one out of bounds on one hole. I can't remember.
Yeah. He hit one out of bounds and almost hit his provisional out of bounds on one hole. You know, I mean, he was literally 2 feet from going out on his second shot.
I want to know what happened to Batia on Friday because he was inside the cut line and then one hole he had 2 penalties.
Yeah, there was some wild scoring last week from people.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? Yeah, so,
Rashad, you don't have any bets, do you? Because you can't bet in Florida, can you?
Yeah, well, we have Hard Rock. I usually have the prediction markets. I usually do. So those that don't follow me, I usually try to parlay. I try to do kind of wing it parlays to kind of boost the odds a little bit because I always do my bets on Wednesday. So I have a couple going today. I got kind of clipped last night, but I usually try to do it to get all of action on all the best players that I feel like have the best chance to win. Instead of betting Cam Young at 8.5-1, I try to usually boost it so I can get him at like 30-1, and it kind of allows me to get action to more players. So hopefully I hit something tonight. If not, I'll try again tomorrow night, and if not, then I'll have to bet for love of the game, like I said last week.
For love of the game, Michael, where are you lying this week? I know you put a card out there.
Yeah, I had a card on there, and then they flipped the odds of both Alex Fitzpatrick and Davis Thompson. But my card is Gerard at plus 2,400, Jordan Smith at plus 4,900, Jordan Spieth at plus 4,900, and Alex Fitzpatrick was plus 3,233. Now you can get him at plus 4,900 on DraftKings predictions. And then Davis Thompson went from plus 4,900 to plus 3,233. So his odds got a little worse.
Those prediction numbers are always so much different than the actual betting odds for me here in PA. It's crazy sometimes when I see that there. But also, you got to also look at multiple sports books. I mean, up here in PA, you could bet in multiple, sports books. I got all but one of my odds this week at Fanatics Sportsbook, and the numbers were. Where was it? A couple of the numbers, like Michael Kim, I got to 90-1. DraftKings have it at 70-1. Like that's a pretty big difference right there. So it definitely makes it. I mean, Ben Griffin was 27-1 on DraftKings, and I got him at almost 36-1 on Fanatics. So that's a big difference there between two players. So always check your sports book. But guys, we're gonna wrap this up for the day. Make sure you guys are following my man Rashad here. Always putting out plenty of great betting content on his site, on his Twitter account. So make sure you shoot him a follow. Yeah, I wouldn't say good betting. Like it's fun. Just not having the most success lately, but it's all good. I mean, I don't know about you, Rashad, but I was doing my spreadsheet up, and I'm shocked that I'm up for the year in golf. I won't lie to both of you. Like the fact that I've got about a $250 profit on betting and DraftKings this year. I'm shocked because I feel like I've had one of the worst seasons of my life this year, but I'm right there. And anything positive is better than anything else, right?
I started out really, and then starting with Mark at the U.S. him, Goddard, Koiven, and it's basically just kind of kept me afloat for this year because this year was pretty rough. Pretty much from the NCAA tournament to the U.S. Open was probably the worst stretch of betting I've had since I started.
It's been a rough year. It really has been. But guys, for Michael, for Rashad. Next week, I'll have somebody else filling in for Jason. Jason's at football practice. It's football season. It's the time of the year where we lose Jason for the final 3 weeks of the year. It is what it is. I guess his kid is more important than this show. I don't agree, but it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, come on now. Tell the coach to change practice time so you can do the show. Or he could be doing the show from the sidelines at practice, but, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Put the kid first. But, guys, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button. We'll be back next week with another special guest still trying to lock it up. But everybody have a great night. Hit those bets. And always, guys, bubbles up.